Ladies and gents, how do you go from being a freelancer to an agency owner? Obviously, when you make this shift, there's a significant difference in the income that you're making and the structure of how your business is operating, because you're moving from a solopreneur to someone that's running an actual business with employees, okay? Now, you may be a freelancer and still have a bunch of contractors, but we're gonna clearly define what is the difference between freelancer and agency owner before we get into how to make the shift and what the shift actually looks like, to help you better understand if this is something that you want to do, because it's not for everybody, okay? Well, now, without further ado, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Taylor Benchard. I have an agency called Better AMS. We've been running for almost 6 years now. This year we're pacing to do $1.8 million in revenue. Hopefully we do something higher than that. So I got a lot of agency experience. There's almost 300 videos on this channel helping you start and scale an agency. Without further ado, let's dive into it. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. So let's start by defining what it means to be a freelancer. Now, excuse my terrible drawings here. First of all, you are solo in this journey. Okay, you're a freelancer. And as a solo person, this doesn't mean that you don't have contractors. Like, you could technically have some contractors and people that you lean on to help complete aspects of work that you either cannot do or decide to delegate because it's better to delegate, or whatever the reasons are. But at the end of the day, you're the only actual employee to the business. So this is commonly known as a sole proprietorship, at least back where I'm from in Canada. That's the type of business model that this is. You're generating revenue under your personal name, so to speak. Now, the other aspects of being a freelancer is that you have no, like, if you die, everything dies. Okay, so there's it's not kind of death proof is what I'm getting at here. And this is the unfortunate side of being a freelancer, and one of the downsides. If you get sick, the business isn't running, right? If you go into coma for 3 months, nobody's making the business work. Nobody's applying to jobs, getting jobs, completing jobs, projects, etc. So that's the downside to being a freelancer. But the upside of not being death proof is that you really have the max, like a certain level, depending on how many clients you're taking on. Your freedom is significantly higher, okay? Because you don't have much responsibility here. You're not managing any employees. It's really, truly, like, there's no payroll. It's you, and you get a job, and you say, okay, this job's worth $10,000. I'm gonna give $2,000 to the contractor. I'm gonna do the rest of the work. So based on my hours, I'm gonna put in X amount, use these tools. I'll probably walk away with $6,000, $7,000 in profit, but I'm putting my time into it. Okay, so, but there's no payroll. There's no, like, you got to pay out $25,000 to these full-time employees, regardless of where the company's revenue is at. You don't have to worry about these things. So you have a lot more freedom in that sense. But to what degree? Well, this is what we're going to talk about when you transition to an agency owner, because typically when a freelancer starts earning a large amount of money, let's just say 6 figures plus, is when they start to get maxed out. And that's a terrible drawing there, but you can see this says maxed. And this is when the person's going to start to consider, do I want to continue down this journey of being a freelancer, or should I hire people because I'm overwhelmed, right? This is typically the bridge that starts to begin to develop once a freelancer begins to earn a significant amount of income. Now, it may not even be 6 figures annually. It could just be like $70,000 a year. It all depends on a lot of different factors. Are you pricing low? Are you pricing high? Are you getting a lot of clients, a little bit of clients, etc.? So let's talk about an agency. And again, then we're going to talk about how you can shift. But right now we're still talking about the difference between a freelancer and an agency. An agency is not solo. It's the opposite of that. It is just very people intense. It's a people-intensive business. Okay. It can be, but likely won't be for quite some time, death-proof. Okay. Once you've developed the management and the leadership and everything else. Death-proof to you. right? Not to other people in the company, but to you as founders, whatever, a person who started the agency. And over time, you may develop more freedom, but it's going to take a long time to get there. So, yeah, we can just start to see this, but we can say other positive would be that your earning potential is significantly more. So let's just say earnings is greater. Okay, over the long run. So there's a lot of pros and cons to both, and it depends on who you are as a person and whether you want to make this shift. I've talked about the difference between freelancer and agency owners, and I recommend that everybody makes this shift, but it depends on your goals. Like if your goal is to save up, let's just say $1 million in cash, and you want to do that while only working, let's say 5-6 hours a day, and not dealing with the stress of whatever, managing a team or making payroll or all these different things, well, then maybe you should just be a freelancer for 10 years and save as much as possible and try to get to the point where you're making, $250,000 a year and living as cheaply as possible to save that cash. You know what I mean? So it's all dependent on what your goals are, okay? But now that we have a decent definition of what it means to be a freelancer versus an agency owner, let's talk about how you actually cross this bridge, ladies and gents, and what things are kind of involved for you to be able to do so. And that's a hefty problem to try to tackle, but I'll do my best to tackle it from a high level, okay? So freelancer, agency. How in the world do we make this shift? Okay? The first element that is most key that you need to have in the back of your mind as you're trying to go over this is people. Okay, because you won't be able to develop something that is death proof if you don't have the right people. And another element of this is culture. These are things that you really need to consider. Now, why is it at the forefront, and in my opinion the most important that you consider? Well, because if you're a freelancer who's starting to get maxed out, and by the way, this is the starting point that we're starting with here. The starting point is freelancer that's maxed out. We're not starting out at like freelancer who's just starting and is making no revenue. Let's say you're a freelancer, you're maxed out, you're doing $120,000 a year for yourself in jobs, wherever those jobs may be coming from, and you want to take it to the next level because you're tired of being, let's just say, burnt out from doing jobs over and over and over again. You would rather hire people to do the jobs and start to develop a team underneath you, and that way you can manage the team. Okay, cool. That's the natural evolution. People is the most important because if you're already at $120,000 a year, whatever that number is, if you're maxed out, you likely have a little bit of cash in the bank. You likely have some savings. Okay, not only that, but you got a stream, a flow, a pipeline of revenue. Okay, let's say that revenue is 120K. Okay, let's say that your living expenses is 70, so that you're left over with a whopping 50K in profit. That's not bad. You can hire somebody part-time that's really talented for, $50,000 a year. So you could even start there. Or you can, hire them as a contractor in the beginning, etc. But what we're getting at here is like, you're going to need to make an investment into someone. This is kind of the first step to becoming an agency, is you hire somebody. And whether that person is hired hourly in the beginning, part-time, full-time, it doesn't matter. You're making the step to employing somebody. Okay? And there's ways you could just start by scaling with subcontractors and then eventually turn these subcontractors into, some of them, the ones that you enjoy working with the most, into full-time employees. So it doesn't necessarily have to be employed by you per se, but that's the evolution. It's going to get there. You can't just run an agency and scale it to $10 million a year and not have a single employee and everybody's a contractor. It's just not realistic. So, people. Now, the second big thing that you're going to need to figure out is time allocation. And this goes into a lot of things. This goes into, one, knowing yourself. What is your number one skill set? What are you most talented at? Because up until this point, you've been doing everything. You're attracting the clients to get the jobs. You're closing the deals to be able to get the jobs. You are doing the jobs and fulfilling, the jobs or projects that you're getting with the clients, servicing the clients. You're replacing clients that are lost, or replacing, projects and getting more projects after existing projects have been completed, etc. So your time is everywhere at this stage. And the good thing about this, if you've done it long enough, is that you get to understand every area of the business, and you get to understand where you feel like you're best at and where you can contribute the most. Now, the thing you need to try to look for is like, okay, where is my time going to be best spent at this given, this current stage of where I'm at as a freelancer, and I want to shift to an agency. But you need to have a goal. Let's say that your goal is to do 500K in revenue, and you're currently at 120. Okay, well, what's the fastest way to get you to 500? Time allocation. What's your best skill set? Like, what's going to be the asymmetric actions going to help you get there the quickest? Normally, I say at this stage, it's in the founder's highest and best interest to spend more of their time in marketing and sales. Okay, normally, if you're like again, freelancer, solo, you're by yourself, normally it makes sense for you to try to hire somebody that can help you with the client service work, the fulfillment work, so that you can spend more time getting more jobs. This is how it was with me. When I was doing like $5,000-$10,000 a month, it was like, oh my God, this client service work is taking up a lot of time. I want to scale and reach levels of like $250,000 a year, $500,000 a year, but I can't because I'm spending too much time servicing clients. So my first hire was somebody that could help with the service delivery aspect of the freelancing that I was doing at that time, because again, I was by myself. And then once I made that hire, I was able to then spend more time in marketing and sales, which allows me to drive more revenue. Okay? And driving more revenue is really what you need. You just need more rev, ladies and gents. And you need to gain more rev at a reasonable price per client or per project or whatever it is, because the economics need to make sense, right? You can't just sign clients at $250 a project or $250 a month. Doesn't make sense. You need to get and attract ideal clients where the pricing allows you to continue to scale as quickly as possible. So time allocation is important. Normally it's marketing and sales where you should spend more time and you should outsource the service delivery work. That's normally the case, okay? So as you begin to sign more clients and drive more revenue, your time goes more into people and culture, right? That's a natural evolution because, again, you're still too early. Let's say that you're at $150,000, $200,000 a year. It might be you plus one full-time employee. But if you drive more revenue because you've been doing great with marketing and sales, you're going to need to hire another person. So you're going back into people and culture. And once you hire that person, then you can go back into marketing and sales, and you can start to see how like you go from selling to like people, and you're going to be constantly making this shift between like selling more, hiring more, selling more, hiring more, selling more, hiring more. That's a pretty simplistic, example, but like this is really from a super high level what it comes to. And it can become extremely exhausting because you're doing so much. You're all over the place in the agency. Like you're doing marketing, you're doing sales, you're also doing fulfillment likely still at this stage. You're managing the people, you're doing the books, you're making sure that like people are paying, it's an obscene amount of things. You are the one also reliable for the legal work of the companies, so just got to make sure everything's like all the boxes are checked and the company's legal and all the documentation is there, like it's a lot. So your energy is constantly being pulled in a lot of different directions outside of just selling and hiring people. But this is really the two most important things that if you could just focus on these two things, then everything else would be taken care of magically, what you should be spending your time doing. Okay, so there's a million other things I can list, but time allocation, which is typically better to be spent in marketing and sales, especially in the early stages, as much as possible to drive more revenue, and people and culture, hiring and making sure the people that you're hiring, are a good fit for the type of company you want to build. These are typically the most important things that you can work on to try to make this shift from freelancer to agency. Now, remember in the beginning of this video, I talked about how An agency, the difference is this thing can quote unquote be death proof. And so if you build it properly, you as the founder could die and the company will still run without you. It takes a long time to get there. It's not something that you can easily achieve in like 6 months, because you just like to develop a leadership team, a team of people that you would consider partners, a team of people that is good enough to grow the business without you, takes a long time. And especially if you're in the early stages and you don't have the money to afford to hire somebody who already has the knowledge and experience, and you need to grow that person that could become a leader and a partner in the agency in-house, this is very time consuming. I was very fortunate in the sense that the person who's currently the CEO of Better AMS, Destiny, she was the 3rd or 4th onshore hire within Better AMS, and has gone on to grow into a position that is extremely valuable in the company. But it didn't happen in 6 months. It happened in like 3-4 years. And so it takes time, and you have to be patient along this journey. You can't just expect it to be 12-18 months and all of a sudden you're going to have something that is, way more bulletproof than you as a freelancer. It's going to take time. Unless you have a ton of money and you're, venture backed or whatever, but typically with agencies, this isn't the case. So, ladies and gents, that was the video on the difference between freelancers and agency owners and how to make the shift. Hopefully you found that valuable. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so. That is what you can do to support me and help reciprocate for the value that you hopefully received in this video. If you also want to help by liking the video or dropping a comment below, I do respond to all the comments. All these things help boost the algo to get this video out to more people. Much love, ladies and gents, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao. Hey friend, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to watch another one that's extremely valuable, I just selected it for you, and you can check it out by clicking it right there on the other side of the screen across from my face. All right, friend, enjoy. Thanks for watching the channel.